alright? I'm at Rathcruachan in Roscommon. In this video, I'm going to be hiking all around the Rathcruachan complex, telling the story of the great cattle raid of Cooley, getting started on by bulls, crossing a portal into the other world, and camping in my car, and maybe making friends with a few friendly cows too. So I know this looks like another big mound in the field, but this one is of particular importance because this is tied in with our greatest mythological stories, but it's also real. Look, this is historical. This ties in history and mythology. This is where you would have entered the massive big hall that would have been on top of it. This, they know factually, is where they had great feasts and celebrations, and the quarter festivals were celebrated here, especially Samhain, which is Halloween as we know it now. This is where it all happened. I'm just exiting the other side now of entrance or exit, I guess, depending on which way you're coming from. There is archaeology going all the way through the fields that way, where you can actually still see the roads. There's two roads over that way called the Mucklas, which are ancient roads and thought to be ritual because they go past Oweynagat, or the Cave of Uaimh. They go past these ancient barrows and burial mounds. This place is so dense with mythology and archaeology that it has to be the most, it's definitely top 5 most important places in the whole of the country. And if you ask me, it's up there on the European scale, if you know the history and the mythology. Because like when you go to the Hill of Tara, you always see American people on the Hill of Tara, they're walking around going, what's all this about, you know? You don't know the story. You need to come to places like this knowing what you're looking at, which is why guides are great. If you go to Tulsk, the town, that's about 5 minutes in that direction. There's a visitor centre that will tell you everything you need to know about this place, and they do tours of this place. Go and do that. But now, rant over about how class I think this yoke is. This is where the beginning of An Táin Bó Cuailnge happens. An Táin Bó Cuailnge is a story passed down orally for at least 600 years until it was written down by monks. Fragments of the story exist as far back as the 7th century, but the most whole texts are from the 12th century. It's still debated whether it's a tale of fiction or based on real events, but personally, I believe there's too much truth in the landscape and in monuments to think it's complete fiction. There's books like this thick just about that story, that the telling of that story. Thomas Kinsella's translation is the one that I have always gone off. So if you want to read the story, the mythology of An Táin Bó Cuailnge, which begins here, get Thomas Kinsella's book. It's class. There's loads of lists in it. You don't have to read all the lists. About 2,000 years ago, Queen Maeve and King Ailill sat in the big hall on top of that mound there when it was covered with palisades, and there was thousands of people around here and big tents and fires and the smell of food and music. It was a big deal, right? This was like where they had the Samhain celebrations. Every 7th year they had it at the Hill of Tara, but I think every year they had it here. And it was on the mound during Samhain, after their big festival, that Queen Maeve and King Ailill had their big row about who was more wealthy, who was the richest between the two of them. And if you know anything about Queen Maeve, she doesn't take any shit. So when she found out that Ailill was one prized bull richer than her, she couldn't stand it. There was no way she was having it. And this bull, his name was Finn Banach, and this bull was terrifying. Look at the size of that yoke, man. Jesus Christ. But Finn Banach was this big, great behemoth, muscly and extremely fertile. So he was sought after. And the only other bull that was known of that calibre, that was potentially greater but at least equal to Finn Banach, was Don Cuailnge. And Don Cuailnge was herded by this great cattle herder in Ulster. So Maeve, she got one of her lads and sent him to this great cattle herder and said, you do whatever it takes, go and get that bull for me. So your man goes over to Ulster, to the Kingdom of Ulster, finds the cattle herder and says to him, here, you know, you're one Queen Maeve. And he's like, Yeah, I know her, yeah. So they strike up a deal. Everything's cool. Messenger's delighted with himself. He has a few drinks that night to celebrate with the cattle herders lads, and he starts getting a bit boasty. Oh, I'm gonna perch a little seat here. So the messenger, he tells all the cattle herders lads, sure, Maeve was gonna take that bull whether he liked it or not. He's lucky he came to an agreement. So all the lads are like, is that right, yeah man? And obviously they go and tell the cattle herder, and the next morning the deal breaks down. No bull for Maeve. The messenger has to come back here to Cruachan, break the bad news to Maeve, and she's not happy. So she gathers an army. She starts raising every warrior she can get her hands on. She uses her daughter Findabar several times to convince other kings to come and fight for her, because she knows that a cattle raid into Ulster is no easy task. She gets all the lads together and they start marching towards Ulster. While all that is happening, the king of Ulster, Conchobar MacNessa, he hears of Maeve's army heading into Ulster on this great cattle raid. And obviously he can't be having that. So he starts rallying his own troops to go and counter this army coming into his kingdom. But in a story leading up to this mythology of An Táin Bó Cuailnge, the goddess Macha, she is forced to race chariots while heavily pregnant by Conchobar MacNessa. She curses Conchobar MacNessa and all of the men of Ulster and tells them that when they're in their most dire straits, when they're in their biggest time of need, that revenge will come upon them. And Macha's curse comes true as all of the Ulster men are getting all their kit ready, they're getting ready to go to war. They are all crippled. They're all curling up in the fetal position. They drop to the ground. They're all struck down with the pains of childbirth, which is class. That is so good. The only person that is not floored with these pains is the young warrior Cuchulainn. I'm not 100% sure why Cuchulainn isn't affected by the pains. I don't know if it's because he's a demigod or if it's because he's considered like 16 or 17. He's not quite a man, I guess, technically. And all of the Ulster men were affected by this curse. So whatever the reason may be, Cuchulainn gets away with it, and he is the only person that can halt Maeve's army while the other lads try and get themselves together. Cuchulainn does this extremely successfully. He halts the army as it moves eastwards up into the Cooley Mountains, chasing Don Cuailnge, who is on the run through the mountains. Cuchulainn slows it down, and he does so by enacting the rites of single combat. There are mountains and hills and passes, and very famously lots of fords all around County Louth and Armagh that are named after the battles that took place where Cuchulainn killed champion after champion after champion that Maeve sent at him. And some of the stories of the single combats are so sad because he knew a lot of these people. Ferdia is like the famous one where it was like his best friend, his brother, and in some modern understandings they think potentially could have been his lover, and he killed him. He had to kill him. Another person that Cuchulainn killed was Freach, and Freach was probably the one true love of Maeve's daughter Findabar. Findabar was used as a pawn throughout all of this war to try and lure in more men by promising her to kings and warriors, and most of the people that went into single combat, Maeve said, if you kill Cuchulainn, you can marry Findabar. So they were like, yeah, cool, because she was supposed to be gorgeous. So they would go off and they would all die. It was worth the risk, even though no lads ever came back from fighting Cuchulainn. The one man that she truly loved was Freach. And to be fair, I think Maeve and Alil liked Freach as well. I think they actually all got along. But he was a warrior at the end of the day, and he was chosen as a champion, and Cuchulainn struck him down. Poor old Freach. But eventually, the army does catch Don Cuailnge in the mountains. They begin to drive the bull back west, back towards Cruachan. But at this time, the men of Ulster, their birthing pangs, they begin to ease off. They get ready to intercept the army on their way back here to Cruachan, where they can begin the great battle at the end of the story. Eventually the two armies clash somewhere not too far north, the very centre of Ireland, which is called the Hill of Uaimh, and they have this big intense battle that seems pretty even for quite a while. A great warrior named Fergus MacRoach, who was an exile of Ulster and fighting for Maeve, he met Cuchulainn in the battle, and he was also Cuchulainn's foster father. And they had a previous arrangement that they would not fight each other the next time they met. And in addition to this, Cuchulainn was pretty battered at this point. He had gone through so many of these single combat fights. He sidelined himself for a lot of the beginning of this battle. And when Fergus MacRoach, his foster father, met him on the field, he was kind of in bits. So Fergus didn't want to fight him. Regardless of the arrangement that they had made that they wouldn't fight each other if they met each other, I don't think Fergus was physically able to bring himself to fight the young fella. Like, he was only 16 or 17, he was in bits. So Fergus walks off the field of battle, and with him, his 3,000 men who were following him left with him. And when that happened, the battle collapsed. Maeve's army saw Fergus leaving, and they were like, if Fergus is out, we're out. And they begin retreating, and the Ulster army keep pushing them towards the Shannon. During the retreat, Cuchulainn comes across Queen Maeve, and I don't fully trust this bit of the story. It seems like maybe a monk 1500 years ago writing this down thought you might have a crack at changing a couple of bits here. But Maeve was said to have gotten her period in the middle of this battle, and after the battle had more or less ended and they were retreating back west, she pulled off to the sidelines with a cover of a few guards, and she pulled off for a piss and to sort herself out, basically. And that's where Cuchulainn found her. And he found her in such a vulnerable position that he was like, I can't kill you. I can't. It was so vulnerable. And there's something weird about that to me. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't match up with, it just doesn't fit. I don't know what it is. Cuchulainn felt so bad for her that he not only let her go, but he aided in her retreat back to Athlone. And he allowed Maeve to bring Don Cuailnge with her. So Maeve lost the battle, she lost the war, but she won the bull. So I guess that's kind of what she set out to get in the first place. So it's a bit bittersweet. So Maeve and Don Cuailnge and Ailill, Fergus MacRoach and their thousands and thousands of warriors, they march back here with the bull. That is terrifying. That's Cruachan in the distance, right? I swear, I just drove around the corner, right? And there is a massive brown bull. But why that's so insane is because Finn Bannock, the big white bull, is over in that field there. And it looks like Don Cuailnge is in that field right there. But not only that, let's go back to the story for a second. When Maeve and Ailill and Don Cuailnge and all the lads got back here to Cruachan to get a bit of motivation going around the lads again, after they had hiked across Ireland and they had lost the battle, they were like, right, let's have a bullfight. Let's have Don Cuailnge and Finn Bannock, the two mightiest bulls in the whole of Ireland. Let's have them fight each other. And they did it right here. It's kind of hard to make out here. You can see the bank of it here. It wraps around there. It's this huge big ring, and it is called Rath na Tarv, or the Wrath of the Bull. This is the Rath where the two bulls fought each other. It's still here. It's still called the Wrath of the Bulls. How unreal is that? So Maeve and Ailill and all of the warriors, they all gather around the circumference of this big rath here, and in the middle of it they bring in Don Cuailnge, and Don Cuailnge gets onto this top of this mound here, and he takes his big sniff of the air and he can smell Finn Bannock is close, and he lets out this great big bellow that can be heard for kilometers around, and Finn Bannock hears him. He saunters out, comes in, walks into the mound here, and the two of them clash horns. They kick the shit out of each other. They fight each other for so long that everyone gets bored and goes to bed. After all the lads had gone to bed, the bulls continued to fight until the next morning. And when the men who were all encamped at Rathcrohan or Cruachan over in that field, I hear you, they got up the next morning and they walked over here, and the victor stood in the middle of the field. I need to go stand in the middle of the field. I did not know about this. I've been reading about this place for years. Oh, why do I always wear shorts? If that bull gets into this field, I'm screwed. Okay, the bull can see me. The bull is in that field and he has access to this field. So I'm going to get out of here. But this is it. This is where the victor stood. An Táin Bó Cuailnge, the great brown bull of Cooley. He stood on the top of this mound with the blood of Finn Banach dripping off his body. It said he had parts of Finn Banach hanging off of his horns. The two of them tore each other to pieces, and An Táin Bó Cuailnge himself barely looked alive. An Táin Bó Cuailnge that morning had traipsed all around Ireland, dripping blood and bits of Finn Banach all over the land. And there's still place names associated with the blood and body parts of the great bull Finn Banach named all around Ireland. And when An Táin Bó Cuailnge eventually made his way back here, back to Cruachan, where all the men, all the warriors of Connacht saw him standing, he dropped dead. The two great bulls killed each other, and Maeve and Alil were equal at last. There's a tiny little dog chasing my rear. Hello, doggy. Hello, doggy. I'm no longer scared of the bull. I'm scared of the Jack Russell. Hello, 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 hello. I don't really know what to do about this dog situation. He's taking the turns ahead of me. It's like he knows where I'm going. I don't really know what to do. This is the spot that has mainly associated this place with Halloween. I get very nervous at this point. Is that enough warnings for you? This is a portal into the other world, and I get very nervous when I go into this. I've gone in here twice before. Once on Halloween night. Okay, I'm kitted up, I have an extra light in my bag. Ain't dinner on shot? Above me here is the thing that sparked my passion about mythology in the first place. This is an Uaimh stone. It was placed there by people thousands of years ago to keep the entrance of this open. And Uaimh is the earliest form of writing in the Irish language. And the Uaimh on this stone says, Freach, son of Maeve. Two people mentioned in An Táin Bó Cuailnge. Their names are written here at the entrance to a portal into the other world, where they were known to be active thousands of years ago. Oh yeah, I have to get out of my bootay. Somebody busted this gate open. I have not crossed into the other world, so the cave ends up there. But it was thought that it probably kept going. But there was a collapse in the cave at some point. They think maybe when they put the ESB lines up, which is the electricity pylons up above. This is a portal into the other world, where the Tuatha De Danann are said to live, the old gods of Ireland. This is one of the places where they cross over in this cave. The mythology and everything is cool. It tells a lot about this place and what people thought of it through the thousands of years that people have been coming into this cave. It's a very spiritual place. The ancient warriors of Ireland came down here as part of their training. It's thought that they actually took psychedelics. They probably took mushrooms, and they came down into this cave, which is essentially sensory deprivation almost. When you turn the lights off in here, you cannot see anything. And the only sound you hear is the odd little drip of water. And they would sit in here for hours and hours and hours, and they would battle their mind. They would become strong in their spirit and in their head. And that is a thing that the ancient warriors of Ireland did here in this cave. And that brings me to a point. Recently, Ireland lost one of its greats, a man called Manchán Magan. If you don't know that name and you're interested in Irish culture and language and history and mythology, look this man up. Read his books, listen to his interviews, the podcasts he was on, the shows he made, the documentaries. He was an unbelievable man, and he died, I think, a week and a half ago. He was somebody who used to come to this cave, and he would sit for hours in darkness and in silence, just like the old warriors of Ireland. I wanted to come here and to just say his name in the hopes that it might cross over to the other world. But I'm going to turn all the lights off and I'm going to just sit now. It is customary to leave an offering. This little jar is honey, oats and butter. I think it's time to go. This is the bit you're gonna have to climb through. I know. I'm going back to the car. Hello, doggy. What are you still doing out here? Man, I feel shook after that. Okay, I just pulled up at my car camping spot for the night, which is completely pitch black everywhere. But there's a gorgeous big lake beside me here. I'm gonna get this place ready and get cozy, baby. I forgot my fairy lights. I'm freaked. I'm getting pretty tired, so I better cook some food. Going for the tonkatsu delight tonight. It's so dark here. Like, you forget when you live close to a city. Oh, that is nice. I haven't eaten hot food since like 10:30, 11 o'clock this morning. And I've been through some things today. I'll keep it straight. That cave freaked me out tonight. There came a point, it was like I felt the energy just going out of my body. And I was like, oh, we gotta get out of here. He brings them out of the cave. Something felt off. Something felt weird. I've been in there twice before, and both times I went in there, it felt calm and peaceful, and I could have stayed in there for ages. I've said before how I feel about this spiritual stuff, that I'm on the knife's edge about like how much of it I actually believe. I think it mostly comes down to your mind, and in some cases just weird sciencey stuff that we don't understand, that we perceive as spiritual things. And what was the story with that Jack Russell just chasing me around? I don't know, it was weird. It was quite a night of experiences for me. Looking forward to seeing that lake in the morning, having myself a nice little coffee. Okay, chill out time. Yeah. I am in my humble abode. It's so less cozy without the fairy lights. Got a real pillow, my nice wool blankie. I'm gonna get into my sleeping bag now and maybe just watch an episode of The Office and go to sleep. So, ihawa. See you in the morning. Would you like a flat white? Americano? Would you like some oat milk or cow milk? Friend? Yeah, it's a gooey nose. Those snots are. Imagine what, Macarja. My friend here is having a bit of a scratch. Is that a good scratch, is it? I think that's a baby bull. Look at his little horns. Tell you something, nothing like the big brother I saw Finn Bannock over at the fucking... Hey, you stay away from my food. Oh. What a way to wake up. That was a pretty good night's sleep. I made one major error when I was setting the car up with the mattress and the sleeping bag and everything. I had the internal car lights on and my headlamp on, and I had like all the doors open. So when I did get in, there was a bunch of bugs in there. Other than that, pretty good night's sleep. Nobody turned up last night. I mean, I am kind of in the middle of nowhere here, so I would be very surprised if a car showed up last night. But not a peep, and it was so dark. Like as soon as I turned all the lights off, there was nothing. Couldn't see a thing. They are a very curious animal, aren't they? They're nice though. You'd almost feel bad. A fine beast you are. I know. You don't get compliments like that every morning, do you? They've all grown largely uninterested in me now. Neat, organised, packed away. I find this is the key, is to be far more organised than you think you need to be. Because you'll always lose something, but if you're organised, you'll almost always find it. Saying goodbye to the lads. That's my time in the mighty Roscommon. I'm glad I didn't get sucked into the other world, into some time warp or something like that, and I actually made it out. Well, hopefully this isn't all my imagination and I did make it out. But anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Slán go fóill.